On today's show, we talk with Frank Maggio, the CEO and managing director of React LLC, along with Matt Birk, former NFL player and Super Bowl champion. They're talking all about their new platform that is all about the squares called Super Squares.
This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
Everywhere you turn, it's the same old sports talk, the same headlines, the same news, and the same boring information. This podcast is here to change all of that. We bring you hot sports takes, winning sports betting strategy and picks, reliable gaming industry news, and breaking interviews with some of the biggest names in sports business. My name is Ryan Newpel, and welcome to the Noop Sports Show. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Noob Sports Show. I'm your host, Ryan Newpel, here with you each and every time. Hey, we're up to episode 119, and today I have some very special guests that are going to tell us all about their new platform that's coming up. Frank Maggio is with me. Frank, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Matt Birk. Matt is with me as well. Matt, welcome.
Thank you, Ryan.
Hey, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys have going on with Super Squares. But before we get going with that, Frank, let's hear a little bit about, I know you're the CEO, managing director of this company. I'd like to hear a little bit more about your career path and what led you to where you are today with Super Squares.
Awesome. Yeah. So I used to work for Procter & Gamble right out of college and learned right away that advertising industry needed help and that ad skipping was going to be a problem. The VCR had just come out and I could see that the remote control in the VCR, people were sending us a signal. I want fewer ads. There are too many. So I thought there's got to be a way to fix this ad thing. And at the same time, I happened to come across a contest at a grocery store. And that contest had to do with Monday Night Football. And it had to do with brands getting your attention for every Monday night game for 2 months. And I won it. And I figured out how to turn every game card into $5,500. And I collected 4,000 of them and turned in $21 million worth of scratch-off cards. And my career careened into a different direction once that happened.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. That's unbelievable. That's a really amazing story. So keep going. So tell us a little bit more now.
So I retired from Procter & Gamble at the age of 25 and moved to Florida. And while I got really interested in real estate because I see things differently, I saw like redevelopment was a great opportunity. I could see things coming out of things that weren't there yet. But I never gave up this idea that, advertising needs to be fixed. And I kept hearing this knocking in my head that's like, make it a game, get people excited. Make people want to pay attention, like what happened to you, Frank. So I started patenting ideas around the gamification of advertising so that we would incentivize your attention through contesting, adrenalizing the whole environment, sort of like a sport. And so I've filed probably 30 patents. I've been issued about over a dozen. And we now have a business built around the idea of thinking of advertising as a sport. And we're starting by reaching sports fans, because they're the most adrenalized audiences already, and they're the most valuable. So our business builds games about ads and sports, and we reward people for paying attention. And we take the ad spend and we give them a portion of it in exchange for their attention, building a brand new ecosystem.
That's really cool. Well, congrats on all that success and what a cool path, to get where you are today. Amazing. So, tell us a little bit about, I know Super Squares is the latest and greatest that you guys have and that you're working on. Just tell us a little bit high level, what Super Squares is and kind of, where they can find it and what it is.
Sure. Well, I'd like let Matt kind of pipe in a little bit because he's made some interesting observations about not only what Super Squares is, but by comparing it to an existing industry called fantasy sports. He actually helped me look at it quite differently. And I wouldn't mind if you would let him kind of pipe in on that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I was going to introduce Matt a little further here down the show, but let's jump in now, Matt. Matt, I'd love to hear from you and introduce yourself just a little bit. I'm sure most of the listeners probably have heard of you, but let's little background on you and then a little bit about Super Squares.
Well, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, my story's not as cool as Frank's. I just played for 15 years in the NFL and won a Super Bowl. I thought that was a pretty good story until I met Frank and he told me about the scratch off game, everything after that. But so I retired in 2013 after winning the Super Bowl with the Ravens, and have an entrepreneurial spirit and work on a lot of different projects and companies. And got connected with Frank about a year ago, and listening to him talk about advertising, and it's the biggest game in the world, right? I love to compete, and I saw what this reactive advertising is, a solution to a massive problem, one that I've experienced in my own small businesses, but one that we all just intuitively know that it exists, that advertising really doesn't work that well. And with Super Squares, what it is it's Ryan, the old football squares game that everybody
100%.
plays. Yeah, right. So 100 million people know how to play that game. Problem is one, it's always been done on paper, so it's clunky and antiquated. And two, it's really not that much fun. Of course I'll buy a box, and then if you're like me, you get like 5 as your number combination. You just made a donation, and you don't really play. There's nothing to do after you get your numbers. Well, the version that Frank had created, he says it's squares with a twist. I say it's squares on steroids. What we have now is you make 3 predictions about the game before the game, so there's a skill level involved, skill element. And then instead of just getting 1 number combination, you actually get 4 number combinations. That's a super square. And we give you a new super square every quarter. Mm-hmm. So it's always changing. There's always something to do. You're actually actively participating in the game as a fan, right? And so and that's what we want. Listen, I played 15 years in the NFL, but I'm a sports fan. I started as a sports fan. I'm going to die as a sports fan. Yep. I just had this period in the middle where I got to play. And when I think about it from a business perspective, fantasy football is this little cottage industry that started 40 years ago, right? Some guy came up with it, and it's grown. It's an $18 billion a year industry. That's bigger than the NFL. I worked at the NFL league office for 2 years. That's bigger than the NFL, and nobody owns that industry.
Right.
And it's fully matured now. The potential squares audience is much bigger than fantasy football. They say 35, 40 million people play fantasy. 100 million people are familiar with squares. And this industry is just starting out. And Frank has secured the IP around this entire industry. So from a business perspective, it's very exciting to be involved at the ground floor, day one, if you will, and as we launched it this year.
That's super cool. Let me ask, how did you guys connect? Where did you two connect? How did that happen?
You tell them.
Well, so before I came on board, Frank teamed up with a guy named Tim Sabian. Tim Sabian is the one who launched the Howard Stern channels back in the 90s, and just so happens that Tim Sabian was at my wedding 19 years ago, because he and my father-in-law have known each other since they were 4 years old and grew up together and are best friends. So it's funny how life works, right? And how people come in and out of your life, and the reasons that they come into your life. So that's how it was through Tim Sabian that Frank and I became acquainted, and now we're joined at the hip. We're teammates.
Really cool. Really cool. Really cool. So let's dive a little bit further into Super Squares. So, the one thing, when I think of square games, all I think about is Super Bowl. Just to be honest, I think about the Super Bowl and squares. So I'm assuming, maybe you guys are focusing around more, right? You can play squares around other games, maybe even other sports, or is it all football? Tell us a little bit about that. And can you play it year long? And is it an app? Is it a web developed website? What is it?
Great question. Actually, Ryan, we are a multi-sport, multi-game solution. We deployed in the Minnesota market through KFan, an iHeart station, in the Minneapolis market. We tested in other markets, but we've been really focused on one market. And we've been handling every football game, or every game day. We've had a Super Squares game since the beginning of the season, right? And we're growing. So in a relatively small market, we're now peaking like 3,000 to 4,000 people a game are playing, and it's growing every week. And now the buzz is catching on, because like Matt's right. It's kind of hard when you're the owner and inventor to to look at it from the outside. So I love hearing other people talk about it. I can learn from what they don't like, but it gets great feedback. And we really have created a very fun game that reaches casual and aggressive sports fans. When women play this game and love it, we've had most of our top winners, many of our top winners are females. And not that they're not sports fans, but if you look at the typical fantasy platform, you know, it's 85% male.
Sure.
So it does work with other sports. We already have a hockey version built. We're working on a NASCAR version. We have a version for soccer that's got international applications. And it's the same every game. 3, 2, 1, 3 predictions, 2 questions, and then you get your first square. And the key, Ryan, we didn't talk about this. The questions, the game show element, are questions about the advertisements that are in the app. So when you log in, if you'll play on Friday, we'll have this Sunday's games up in Friday. Log in, 3 predictions. It's always the same for football, live football. A final score, total longest, the receiver with the most yards and the team that they're from, and then total yards. Those are the 3 predictions. They're easy. They're consistent. You can do your homework. And then before and after the predictions, there are commercials from our brands, our sponsors. When that's done, you answer 2 questions about those commercials to see if you were paying attention. And that adrenalizes the ad experience. And that's what we offer brands. We offer ad experiences.
Cool. Very cool. So I think, you know, as of recent, I remember back in December, I think seeing some announcement of some sort of a big prize pool. That this is one question I have, because when I think of fantasy sports, when I think of, you know, betting and squares, I'm thinking, man, can I win some money as well on top of this? So I saw a big prize pool. I mean, I think it was $2.4 million prize pool that you guys had offered. Tell me about how that works and how that fits in. You know, I guess coming up to the Super Bowl, I'm assuming you guys have some big stuff coming up here for the Super Bowl. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Our prize pool is $2.4 million. It has been since the week 13. That's been the tournament that we're on right now. The largest segment of that is what we call the perfect game jackpot. We work with SCA Promotions. They're the largest insurer, and they post annuities tied to contests. And we've worked with them that if anybody gets a perfect game in Super Squares, meaning 3 perfect predictions and 4 perfect squares, you win $1 million. And so does your buddy. And this is the really viral aspect of the way our system works. Unlike other, there is a new, there's a company that's got a squares game out there right now that's spending tens of millions of dollars to collect data about their players, that's offering a prize. Our prize pool is designed to reward you for telling your friends about it, but not giving you an advantage over your friends. For example, and similar with HQ. Remember the HQ trivia game on your phone? Yeah,
for sure.
HQ used to give you a free life if you recruited a friend. What does that mean? Well, that means once you're playing against your friend, I get 2 chances and my friend only gets 1. That's patently unfair. Our model is tell your friends to play, and the benefit by referring it, they become your friend and you're their buddy. When your friend wins, you win the same exact prize.
Wow.
So if you've got 10 friends playing, you've got 10, it's like a football team.
Multiply your chances, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the difference. So when I go back to our jackpot, if you get a perfect game, you win $1 million. If you have a buddy, so does he or she.
Cool.
So that's the key. And then on the bigger game, which is on February the 7th, the highest score in the country will win an $80,000 Rivian electric adventure vehicle, something no one has ever won before. It's literally my Rivian that I've out on order, right? I've paid for my deposit. I've ordered it. I've spec'd it out. And I thought, what can I give fans that they can't get anywhere else? And it's like my truck, my electric truck. So somebody's going to win that. And it's going to be a heartbreaking day to give the keys over. But I want people to get that excitement about
the sacrifice you make in business, right?
It is, brother. It is. Absolutely.
It's really cool to hear.
Ryan, if I can just add, it really, you know, when you think, okay, you know, Super Squares is a free to play game. So you think, well, what's the hook, right? Is it data? Are you going to spam me for, you know, with 4 emails a day for the next 2 years? Or are you going to try to, you know, what really, and Frank has thought about this for a long time. And what really made me want to put everything else down that I was working on and come work for him is, Frank has figured out that attention is actually more valuable than money. And if people are just willing to pay attention for 2 minutes before kickoff and watch these 2 ads, the brands, these companies get what they want, which is people's attention. We get players. It's kind of this virtuous environment where, as to use Frank's language, people aren't tracked and targeted and ambushed,
Sure.
but they're actually respected, protected, and rewarded. And we don't sell anybody's data. They willingly enter this game with the opportunity to win crazy big prizes and have a lot of fun. All we ask is that you watch these 2 ads, rate them, let the brands know if they're good ads or not, and then answer the question to prove that you paid attention. And that's it. And it really is one of these situations where it's totally transparent, and everybody gets what they want or what they need. And it's really well thought through. And at the end of the day, it's just a better way. It's a better way to advertise, right? None of us have ever said, "Oh boy, here comes a commercial."
Yeah, let's watch.
Or when you get that pop-up ad, "Oh good, it's a pop-up." We've never said that. But I'm telling you, in our game, you actually get excited to watch the commercials, and then you actually remember them because you're in this adrenalized state. I've experienced it, and using this nostalgic game that everybody knows about, it's incredible. I would tell all the guys this is what sold me. My wife is not a football fan. She has had to watch more football throughout her life than she ever wanted to, right? But when we sit on the couch, and it might be the Texans against the Jaguars, and she wants to watch something. Say, no, let's play Super Squares. And she gets into the game. So now what I get out of it is I get my wife sitting on the couch with me watching football, not nagging me to change the channel. Yeah. That's like the biggest win there is for me, Ryan.
That's cool. Well, you guys clearly have a product here that is needed and wanted, and I'm excited to, for everybody listening to get out there and play. How can people play though? I mean, do they download an app? Is that how do they get to it? Where do they find it? How do they get started with you guys?
Go to supersquares.com and just choose your platform, Apple or Android. We have a wagering version under development. We think it'll be ready for next fall, where instead of the advertising component, it's just pure what we call predictor squares, prediction and squares combined. Also, to share with you, Ryan, one of the nuances of the game. So there is ad tech inside of our IP, but there's also really good gamification. Think about the squares. Think about win-lose games like Monopoly. One winner, everybody else loses. Musical chairs, right? This is cutthroat. It's binary. You're either up or you're down. Prop bets. You're either right or you're wrong, right? Fantasy. You either get the points, you don't. I thought it would be a better thing to do if I could make prediction and squares give you rewards for being close, right? Like in the squares game, on the normal squares game, there's 100 boxes or 100 squares. There's one winner at the quarter and 99 losers. In our game, if you get one of the scores right, not just both, you get points. If you get them both right, you get more points. If you get close to the predictions, you get points. The closer you get, the more points. And at the end of the game, the winner isn't the guy that got lucky and just happened to have the random square. It's the guy that got great squares, paid attention, and did really great on their predictions. So it's a great game. And it's one people I believe are going to wager on. But for right now, our free-to-play version, your payment is attention.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So off topic, before we get off here, I know you guys are busy and have a lot going on with business, but off topic, who do you have in the Super Bowl? Who's going to win? It's right here. I mean, I'm in Orlando, Florida, so it's right here down the road in Tampa. I'm excited for it this year, as I always am. But who do you guys have? Any predictions on that side of things?
Well, just so you know, the headquarters is in Tampa, so you know who Frank's picking. I'm obviously. I was all aboard the Baltimore Ravens and the Lamar Jackson train, so I'm still in a little bit of depression. But hard to go against Patrick Mahomes, and I think Aaron Rodgers playing at home at Lambeau Field. But I'm really excited about, just as a fan, about the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah,
and kind of hoping that they can pull out what I think would be a pretty miraculous win at Arrowhead on Sunday.
I'm with you on that. I've found myself becoming a closet Bills fan this year, and it wasn't. I've been gravitating towards them, and the more I watch them, the more I follow them. I'm like, man, I just like this team. It's just a fun team to watch, and I hope they can do it as well. Although I like the Chiefs, and I actually like all 4 teams that are in it this year. I think it's going to be it'll be good no matter what happens. So, Frank, I'm assuming you're cheering for those Bucks.
So let me tell you the quick story. So that year, 1985, when I won that scratch game, one of the prizes was I could either take cash or I could get Super Bowl tickets. And I was a Giants Patriots fan. I'm from Rhode Island, right? And so when I was like really young, the Patriots were nothing. So I was a Giants fan. Then I became a Patriots fan. And then 85 was the Patriots and Bears. So I'm 23 years old and I want to go to the Super Bowl. And they canceled the contest on me. I didn't tell you this. When I turned in $21 million worth of tickets, including 8 seats to the Super Bowl, they canceled the contest. So I didn't get to go see the Patriots play, right? So I'm a Patriots Giants fan. Fast forward to Super Bowl 25. It's in Tampa, and I happen to be there with my dad, and I watch in Tampa the Giants beat Buffalo in Tampa, which is the first of 4 Buffalo Super Bowl losses. So fast forward today, I'm still a Patriots fan, kind of, but now I got Tom Brady in Tampa, playing in Tampa against the Bills, where they lost their first of 4 Super Bowl games. To me, that's an epic story waiting to happen.
Sure is. That's incredible. It sure is. You're full of stories, Matt. You were right, man. Frank has the stories to go with him. That's amazing. I'm so pleased that you guys came on here and talked. Hey, any last words for the visitors or the people listening to this? Where can they get a hold of you guys? Can they get a hold of you guys? Any last words you guys like to say before we jump off here?
I'd say one big announcement coming. Mike Golick is joining our team. And next week, you're going to start hearing Mike talk about Super Squares having the world's largest virtual Super Bowl Squares party. He's going to invite you to play against him for the Super Bowl Squares game that we have on the bigger game. And we're also we want to become the subject matter experts for all things squares. So we're looking to find the oldest surviving Super Bowl Squares game in the world. So we're asking everybody that's ever played a Squares game, check out your drawers, look in your billboard, in your offices, who has the oldest Squares game, and we will pay $5,500 for the oldest Squares game.
Cool.
So not only do we want you guys, your listeners, getting our app and playing, but the message for this year is put away the paper. You can play Super Squares against your friends. We have a technology that you can create your own skybox and play squares against your friends without having to use paper. So get rid of the paper. It's time to go from paper to Super Squares. Find that oldest one. And Mike's going to announce how you can snap your pictures and post it to Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And then we're going to have it certified. But who has the oldest paper Squares game in the world is going to find themselves having something worth a lot of money.
And if you want to hear more stories from Frank or myself or other guys on our team, we actually have a Twitch show as well. Watch parties on Twitch, supersquares.tv. You can check us out there, where we've got a really fun, great community that we've been hanging with all year. Frank's on the show. I come on the show. Jonathan Blevins, he's our host. It's a ton of fun. So if you want to communicate, if you want to hear Frank tell more stories or me tell football stories or whatever, join our Twitch channel.
That's amazing, guys. And Frank, I actually have a small story that that kind of correlates here. So Mike Golick, back probably 5-10 years ago, I personally won a Buffalo Wild Wings pick'em contest.
Wow.
So this was like the nationwide pick'em contest where I won. I didn't even know I was competing in it. I'm just going to the place and I'm picking my winners each week. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, you won a all-inclusive trip to the Rose Bowl Stadium to play in a flag football game with Jerry Rice, Deion Sanders, and Mike Golick and Mike Greenberg are going to be the coaches. So I got to go out there and hang out, and Mike Greenberg and Mike Golick were our coaches, and I'm running around the Rose Bowl Stadium playing flag football with Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders, and it was an amazing time, and a cool story as well. But when you said Mike Golick and has to do with contests, I'm like, he's always involved with contests, I guess. So that's really cool.
That's a cool story, right? That's cool.
Yeah,
It was
it was a neat memory.
awesome.
So anyway, guys, I really appreciate you being here. Listeners, thank you so much. I think this is an amazing app. I hope you guys all check it out and play during Super Bowl. Play every game whenever you can. Get out there for some hockey games once that comes up. So that'll be amazing. But
So Ryan,
Matt, Frank, thank you guys.
Before we go, real quickly,
Sure.
you should get the app, right? And you should create a screen name. I can do it for you, but all your listeners ought to put your name down when they sign up,
There
so
you
that
go.
they become your friends and you're their buddy. And whatever your listeners win, you win the same prize. So you should.
I mean, that's just good advice all around. I mean, everybody listening, right? I mean, you need to, once you get in, start spreading the word, getting other friends out there and doing things like that. That's great advice. So Frank, really appreciate you. Matt, thank you for being here. It's an honor talking to a Super Bowl champion, ex-NFL player. So thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate both you guys.
Our pleasure, Ryan. Thanks.
All right.
you, Ryan.
Take care. All you listeners, thank you. Stay safe out there, and we will be back for another one. Thanks again, Matt and Frank. Have a great day. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Noob Sports Show. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing to our iTunes channel today. Plus, visit us at noobsports.com for more picks, previews, strategy, and news. That's knupsports.com.